longer you're in sales, the more you'll set personal records. You'll have an incredible day where you crushed it and did high volume. Same for the week, the month, the quarter, the year. You're gonna set these personal highs. Everyone has them. If you do sales long enough, everyone's gonna have that day where the stars just aligned and you crushed it. But what separates top performers from middle or bottom performers is consistency. Top performers have that type of phenomenal performance every single day, week, month, quarter, year. They're consistent. So how do you do that? Well, for most reps, their performance is tied to their mood. So when they're feeling motivated, when the mojo's flowing, when the synapses are firing, when the blood's pumping, when they feel invincible, when they feel stoked to go knock doors, yeah, they're gonna perform well and they're gonna put up numbers. But inevitably, when that motivation wanes and they're feeling down and they're not stoked and they're not feeling confident and they've had some tough blows in homes or on the doors, their performance suffers. So they're like this. We call it the solar coaster. Happens to every sales rep. Top performers don't experience that, or if they do, it's smoothed out. It's not like that. So what's the difference? How do you summon motivation when you need it? How do you stay consistently motivated? Well, there's actually a science to it. There's 4 steps. I'm going to teach it to you right now. Step number 1 is goals. You know about goals. You hear about goals. You talk about goals. You set goals. In the meetings, you got to put up goals. But a goal is a tool, and a tool, the effectiveness of a tool and what it produces is going to depend who's wielding it. If you put a hammer into the hands of a toddler, it's going to result in destruction. If you put it in the hands of a master carpenter, they're going to build something awesome with it. So all sales reps set goals, but not all sales reps set them the same. So setting goals is step 1. Step 2, and this goes to how to use goals effectively. Step 2 is find a why that makes you cry. You gotta have some deeper purpose behind what you're doing out there on the doors. And it can't just be money. Trust me, I've had days where I made a nice 5-figure paycheck in a day, and I didn't care. I just wanted to quit. It sucked. I hated it, and I didn't want to do more work. Money at first will be a motivator, but it'll pretty quickly cease to be a substantial enough motivator for your performance to be consistent, especially if you're pushing for your potential and to be a top performer. So you need a why, a deeper purpose. There was a man named Viktor Frankl. He was an Austrian psychiatrist who got interned in Nazi concentration camps. And he viewed the experiment, he viewed the experience as an experiment. He saw all these people in the same circumstances. Some lost the will to live, gave up and died, and others in a weird way actually thrived and became better through this terrible experience. And he wanted to understand why. And he found that those that not only survived but thrived had a purpose in their suffering. In fact, he said that suffering ceases to become suffering the moment it finds a purpose. And he identified that that purpose came in the form of people and a purpose to fulfill. So when you have people that you care about and love that depend on you, tie them to the experience on the doors. Eric Thomas, a famous public speaker, asked a question. Who suffers when you don't give 100%? If you're giving 50% of your effort, someone you care about suffering. Who is it? And on the flip side, who benefits when you give 120%? When you give everything you've got, whose life gets better? Your mom, your dad, your sister, your brother, your friends, your spouse, your kids. Tie those you care about to this work. The other thing is unfinished work, he described it. What do you want to do with your life? When you think about your funeral and you look back, what do you regret not doing? Why are you here on this earth? What's the thing you're going to leave behind? What are you going to do? What do you want to do? What's your passion? Connect what's happening on the doors to that. Maybe it's to go produce music. Maybe it's to start a fitness company. And And this is giving you the capital to be able to do that. It's giving you the skill set to be able to run a business, not just know music, but run the business of music. Connect what you're doing on the doors to these things, and that will represent your why you're doing it. That's step 1 and 2. Step 3 is tie your why to your goals. So it's not enough to have a goal. It's not enough to have a why. These things have to be linked. You have to figure out in your head how this door-to-door sales experience gets you more of those things that you really care about. And lastly, you need a trigger. You need something to connect this all, some experience where when you need to summon motivation, you can get it. And I'll share a story with you that illustrates these 4 steps. There was this one day where I was out knocking and I was just spent, exhausted, fried. I did not have it in me anymore. And I was sitting in my car, staring at the horizon, just waiting for the sun to go below the horizon so that it would be justifiable for me to say, yep, day's done and I'm out of here. Now my goal for the day was 3. I was at 2. And I kept this spreadsheet on my iPad. It had all my goals, annual, quarterly, monthly, weekly, daily. And it had the calendar. So I'm looking at today's date and it has my goal at the top. It has what I actually have. So the top says 3, bottom says 2. I'm missing 1. And on the side, I had pictures of my why, which at the time, I'm from San Diego. At the time, what got me stoked was thinking about buying a beach house in San Diego, just living on the ocean, diving in the mornings. And at the moment, I didn't care. I was telling myself all sorts of lies. It's okay, Adam. You'll hit it harder tomorrow. You'll make for it later. But I had this habit, this practice of looking at this spreadsheet. And I'm looking at a picture of my daughter on a swing set in La Jolla, and I close my eyes and I just soak in that experience. I smell the salty air. I can hear my kids laughing. I can hear the waves crash and I can feel the warmth of the sun. And I'm just living in this moment, this why. And after even just a few minutes, I open my eyes and I'm a changed man. Now I'm looking at that 3 and that 2, and where before I didn't care, now I found it to be the most unacceptable thing in the world. And I got out of the car and I slammed the door and my car door, and I went and knocked on the house that was right in front of me, and this guy came out and he said, "Hey, this is my sister's house, but we're busy." I said, "Man, I'm so sorry, but this is important. Would you mind getting her for me?" She comes to the door. "Oh man, it's so crazy you're here. We were actually talking about this. But listen, I had a rough day. I just need to go lay down. Can we do this some other time?" I looked her in the eyes and said, "Listen, this is actually really important. I promise I'll be efficient and quick. I'm not gonna waste your time. Would it be okay if I came in, we sat down, and I explained this to you?" And she said, "All right, come on in." And I went in and got the sale. Now, what would have happened if I had knocked that door before that little experience I did? When she said, "Is there any way we could do this tomorrow? I'm tired," I would have said, "Thank goodness, yes, I'm tired. Let's do this tomorrow. We can both pretend that this is gonna actually happen tomorrow, when in reality, you just don't wanna talk to me. And truth be told, I don't wanna talk to you. I wanna go home. So there's my scapegoat, there's my out. I can pretend that I should have hit my goal, but didn't." That's what would have happened. But because I knew my goal clearly, I knew my why, I had tied my why to my goal, and I had this trigger, this spreadsheet on my iPad with pictures and data, I was able to summon motivation when I needed it. Now, take everything I just told you about motivation, throw it out the window. Because the reality is there will be times when no matter what you do, you can't get motivated. It just doesn't come. So what do you do then? Top performers have those moments. In those moments, discipline will become your best friend. The way discipline works is you figure out in advance what you need to do to hit your goals, and you do it no matter what. Winston Churchill, who was up against this tyrant Hitler, who had way more resources, way more power, way more military, and was just bombing the crap out of his country. Winston Churchill prevailed, and he famously said a quote, sometimes it's not enough to do your best. Sometimes you have to do what's required. That sums up this experience perfectly, where you're gonna find these, you're gonna have times when you're on the doors and you're like, I can't. I'm not a strong enough person to keep knocking. I want to quit too bad. My desire to quit is too strong. And I set these goals, but I can't hit them. I'm not the guy, not the person. In those moments, you use discipline and you just do what's required. And that's how you grow. That's how you become that person, is by forcing yourself to do the work that has to be done to accomplish your goals. So if you utilize these two pillars, motivation and discipline, you'll find your performance not like this, but like this. You'll find yourself consistently performing at your best, and that best will continue to get better. Consistency is the key to top 1% performance.